So let's talk about a skill that is absolutely fundamental to what you do every day. It's something that can dramatically improve patient care, seriously reduce your own stress, and just transform how your team works together. Now, this isn't something they really teach you in medical or nursing school, but you are using it constantly. It's a huge focus for groups like the Culture Coalition who are trying to figure out how to ease provider burnout. What is it? It's negotiation.
Does this feel a little too real? I bet it does. You face situations just like this all the time, right? These really high-stakes disagreements where there's no clear path forward, communication gets super strained, and the pressure is just immense. Honestly, these moments are a massive source of friction and burnout for so many of us in healthcare. And let's be real, these conversations can feel like you're trying to untangle this impossible knot. You're pulling on one side, your colleague or family member is pulling on the other, and the problem, it just gets tighter and tighter. It's absolutely exhausting, and you often walk away feeling like there was no good solution. But what if we've been looking at these moments completely wrong? Well, according to William Ury, who co-founded the Harvard program on negotiation, what you're doing in those moments isn't just arguing, you're negotiating. It's as simple as that, communicating back and forth, trying to reach an agreement. Just seeing these tense moments for what they are, negotiations, is the very first step to finding a much, much better way through them.
Okay, and that brings us to the absolute core idea of what we're talking about today. If we want to get better outcomes, we have to totally redefine what it even means to win these conversations.
So the old model is all about being adversarial. It's about being right, getting your way, and winning the argument. But you know this. That approach almost always ends up damaging relationships, and frankly, it often leads to pretty bad outcomes. The new goal is the win-win. It's a collaborative search for a solution that actually works for everyone involved. This approach just completely changes the game. See, a great negotiator isn't the toughest person in the room. They're a creative partner. They go in assuming the other person has good intentions. They work with them to find creative and fair options. And this is crucial. They focus on solving the problem, not on attacking the person. So how do we actually do this? What's the toolkit? Well, the foundation for all of this really comes from this landmark book from the Harvard Negotiation Project called Getting to Yes. Let's dive into the single most powerful concept from that book. This right here, this is the key insight. Almost all the time, we argue about our positions, the specific, concrete things we say we want. But we completely fail to dig deeper and explore the interests, the real reasons, the motivations, the fears that are actually driving those positions in the first place. So the skill to learn here is telling the difference between the what and the why. A position is the what. The patient absolutely must have this specific test. But the interest is the why. I am terrified we are missing something and I feel responsible if we do. When you only hear the position, you get an argument. But when you understand the interest, that's when you can start solving the real problem. And this old parable illustrates the concept perfectly. Two people state their position. I want that orange. The obvious compromise, cutting it in half, leaves both of them only half satisfied. But if they just ask one simple question, why do you want it? They uncover their true interests. And suddenly, poof, a perfect solution appears where they both get exactly what they need. That is how you create value out of thin air in a negotiation. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but I'm a caregiver. I'm a giver. I'm not comfortable being demanding or pushing my agenda. Well, it turns out your identity as a giver is actually your secret weapon. Check this out. In his amazing book, Give and Take, Adam Grant points out this fascinating pattern. Givers, we often struggle when we have to advocate for ourselves, but we become incredibly effective, even assertive, when we're advocating for other people. We feel like it's our duty. And that is the absolute key. Because in a clinical setting, you are never just negotiating for yourself. You are always, always advocating for something bigger. You're advocating for your patient's safety, for your team's sanity, for the highest standard of care. When you frame it that way, negotiation stops feeling selfish and becomes what it really is, an act of service, which is perfectly aligned with your core mission. So what's the real-world impact of adopting this kind of approach? Well, it directly tackles the very issues that cause all that frustration and burnout in the first place. The contrast is just so stark. The old way, the adversarial way, it creates friction, it creates distrust, and it leads directly to burnout. But principled negotiation, it builds collaboration, it increases trust with patients and their families, and it leads to a genuine sense of professional fulfillment. You're not just winning arguments anymore, You're building a better, safer, and more supportive environment for absolutely everyone. This quote from William Ury really captures the entire shift in mindset. Your power isn't about how hard you can push or forcing your will on others. Your real power is in your ability to change the entire game, from a frustrating arm wrestle into a creative partnership. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this question to think about. On your very next shift, what's one difficult conversation, one point of friction that you could approach a little differently using these ideas? What impossible knot could you maybe transform into a win-win?